Hello there, and welcome to the retelling of the epic God of War story. If you like, take a moment before sleep to let me know your favorite game in the comments, and if you enjoy drifting off to sleep while dreaming of your favorite game worlds, then feel free to subscribe. Now, on with the story. Chapter 1. The Wilds of Midgard. In the heart of Midgard, where the world still whispered the songs of creation, Kratos and his son Atreus began their journey. Their home, a humble dwelling wrought of timber and stone, stood nestled among the roots of the great forest, a solitary haven where the mortal realm brushed against the wild unknown. The walls, weathered by time and wind, bore the scent of pine resin, and the surrounding trees stretched their branches as if to cradle it from the vastness beyond. As they stepped forth from the threshold, the air thickened with the fragrance of damp earth and ancient wood, and the light, softened by a canopy of leaves high above, cast shifting patterns of gold and shadow upon the ground. The forest stood as a timeless sentinel, its trees rising tall and proud, their bark rough beneath a cloak of moss, their roots twisting and turning like the fingers of some long-forgotten giant. The boughs swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling with a sound akin to a sigh, a melody older than the memory of man. From the depths of the woods came the faint call of a bird, its voice threading through the stillness, while far off, the soft gurgle of a stream murmured like a lullaby. Kratos walked with measured steps, his presence steady as the earth itself, while Atreus, ever eager, let his gaze wander, drinking in the wonders of the wilds. Their path was a narrow ribbon of earth, winding through the undergrowth where ferns unfurled their delicate fronds, and wildflowers nodded in quiet greeting. The trail seemed half claimed by the forest, its edges blurred by time, yet it guided them deeper into the embrace of the trees. Mist hung low in patches, swirling about their feet like the breath of the land, cool and gentle against their skin. The air carried a freshness that spoke of untouched places, of secrets kept by root and stone. Amidst the towering trunks, faint shapes drifted, their forms soft and indistinct, like echoes of a dream. These were the Draugr, souls bound to Midgard by ancient sorrows or unfulfilled oaths. They moved without haste, their hollow eyes catching the dim light, a faint glow shimmering about them like the last embers of a fading fire. Yet there was no threat in their presence, only a stillness that blended with the forest's own rhythm, as if they too were woven into its eternal tapestry. Kratos and Atreus paused to watch them, noting their silent passage through the mist, and continued on, leaving the spirits to their quiet wanderings. Further along, the trees parted to reveal a relic of the past, an archway of stone standing alone in a small clearing. Once, it might have marked the entrance to a sacred grove or a temple lost to memory, its edges now softened by the passage of centuries. Vines traced its surface, and lichen bloomed in muted greens and greys, but the runes carved into its face still glowed faintly, a whisper of the hands that had shaped them. Atreus stepped closer, his fingers brushing the cool stone as he studied the symbols. "What do they mean, Father?" he asked, his voice soft with curiosity. Kratos regarded the archway, his eyes tracing the ancient lines. "They speak of protection," he said, his tone low and deliberate, "and of the balance between the realms. Such markings were made to honor the spirits of this land." Atreus nodded, a spark of wonder flickering in his chest, and they lingered there a moment longer before pressing onward. Time passed gently, and soon they came upon a stream, its waters clear as glass, flowing over pebbles smoothed by countless seasons. Kratos settled upon a broad boulder, his gaze resting on the horizon, while Atreus knelt by the water's edge, watching minnows dart beneath the surface like silver threads. The stream sang a soothing song, its voice a constant murmur that wove through the air, blending with the rustle of leaves overhead. "Look, father," Atreus said, pointing to a cluster of flowers growing near the bank, their petals a vivid blue against the green. "What are those?" Kratos turned his head, his expression softening ever so slightly. "They are called forget-me-nots," he replied. "It is said they bloom where the tears of the gods have fallen." Atreus smiled, plucking one and holding it between his fingers, its delicate beauty a small treasure in his hand. They rested there, the coolness of the water and the stillness of the forest wrapping around them like a gentle embrace, until the call of the journey stirred them once more. As the day waned, the forest shifted its hues. The light, once bright and golden, softened to a warm amber, and the shadows stretched long across the path, reaching for the twilight. There is no urgency in their steps, for the journey was as much in the walking as in the arriving. They passed a glade where a family of deer grazed, their slender forms bathed in the fading glow, their ears flicking at the sound of footsteps, yet untroubled by their presence. The air grew cooler, carrying the promise of night, and the forest seemed to sigh in contentment. When twilight draped its veil over the wilds, they found a sheltered nook beneath the boughs of an ancient oak, its branches spreading wide like a guardian's arms. Kratos gathered fallen wood and kindled a fire, the flames leaping to life with a merry crackle, casting a warm circle of light against the gathering dark. Atreus arranged their bedding, his hands quick and careful, and together they prepared a simple meal, the scent of roasting meat mingling with the earthy tang of wood smoke. For a moment, the forest paused, as if to acknowledge this quiet intrusion with a nod of approval. With the fire burning low, they lay down to rest, the stars above peeking through gaps in the canopy, distant and serene like lanterns hung in the heavens. The forest came alive with the chorus of night, the soft hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves stirred by unseen creatures, the far-off howl of a wolf threading through the stillness. Yet these were not sounds of unrest. They were the lullabies of the wild, sung for those who knew how to listen. Kratos closed his eyes, the burdens of his past falling away like leaves in the wind, and Atreus, curled beside him, drifted into dreams, cradled by the knowledge that tomorrow would bring new marvels. The fire's embers glowed faintly, and the forest of Midgard stood watch, timeless and tranquil, over the travelers in its care. Chapter 2. Echoes of Magic. The journey through Midgard had brought Kratos and Atreus to the edge of the known world, where the veil between the mortal realm and the mystical grew thin. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the air seemed to hum with an unseen energy, and the trees themselves appeared to lean closer, as if to share their ancient secrets. It was here, in a secluded glade bathed in dappled sunlight, that they came upon a dwelling unlike any they had seen before, a sanctuary woven from the living earth, its walls of woven branches and its roof a tapestry of leaves and vines. This was the home of Freya, the witch of the woods, a figure of quiet power and timeless wisdom. Freya's sanctuary was a place of warmth and refuge, where the scent of dried herbs hung heavy in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of wood smoke and something sweeter, like the memory of summer blooms. Inside, the space was bathed in a soft golden light that flickered gently, cast by enchanted lanterns that floated near the ceiling like captured stars. Shelves lined the walls, laden with jars of curious powders and bundles of dried flowers, each one carefully labeled in a script that shimmered faintly, as if the words themselves were alive. A small hearth crackled at the center of the room, its flames dancing in hues of blue and green, casting playful shadows that seemed to whisper tales of old. Freya herself moved with a grace that belied her strength, her robes flowing like water as she tended to her craft. Her eyes, deep and knowing, held the weight of centuries, yet there was a kindness in her gaze as she welcomed the travelers. She spoke in a voice that was soft yet resonant, like the murmur of a distant brook, and as she gestured for them to sit, the air around her seemed to shimmer, as if the very fabric of the world bent to her will. "You have come far," she said, her tone gentle, "and the path ahead is steeped in the old magic of these lands. But fear not, for the runes and the Bifrost shall guide you." Atreus, ever curious, leaned forward, his eyes wide with wonder. "Runes? What are they exactly?" Freya smiled, a faint curve of her lips that spoke of patience. "Runes are the language of the world itself, etched into stone and wood by those who came before. They hold power to protect, to heal, to open doorways between realms. Each symbol is a key, a whisper of the ancients, and when wielded with care, they can shape the very essence of magic." She led them to a small alcove where a slab of smooth stone lay, its surface carved with intricate symbols that glowed with a soft, inner light. The runes were delicate yet profound, their lines flowing like rivers of thought, each one a testament to the hands that had shaped them. Freya traced one with her finger, and as she did, the air around it seemed to hum, a low, soothing vibration that resonated deep within the soul. "These runes," she explained, "are tied to the Bifrost, the bridge that links the realms. It is through them that we may travel beyond the bounds of Midgard, to places where the light of the gods still shines." Atreus reached out, his fingers hovering just above the stone, feeling the faint warmth that emanated from the runes. "And the Bifrost, what is it like?" Freya's eyes softened, as if recalling a distant memory. "The Bifrost is a thread of color and light, a pathway woven from the dreams of the world. When you step upon it, you are carried on a current of magic, swift and silent, through the spaces between realms. It is a journey not of the body, but of the spirit, where time itself seems to pause." Kratos, who had been listening in silence, nodded slightly, his gaze fixed on the runes. There was a weight to his presence, a stillness that spoke of battles long past, yet here, in this sanctuary, even he seemed at peace. Freya turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "You carry an axe forged with the strength of the old ways. Its runes are powerful, but they are only the beginning. There is much you will need to learn if you are to walk the path ahead." And so, under Freya's guidance, they began to study the art of runes, learning the shapes and meanings of each symbol, the way they could be combined to weave spells of protection or to call forth the light of the Bifrost. Hours passed like moments, the sanctuary a cocoon of warmth and learning, until at last, Freya deemed them ready. "It is time," she said, her voice a gentle command. "The realm of Alfheim awaits, and with it, the light that will guide your way." With a graceful motion, she activated the Bifrost, and the air before them shimmered, parting like a curtain to reveal a bridge of radiant color, its hues shifting and blending like the northern lights. The Bifrost hummed softly, a sound that was both distant and near, like the echo of a forgotten song. Kratos and Atreus stepped forward, their hearts steady, and as they crossed the threshold, the world around them dissolved into a swirl of light and shadow. The journey through the Bifrost was unlike anything they had known. It was as if they were floating on a river of dreams, the colors wrapping around them like a gentle embrace, carrying them swiftly yet smoothly through the void. There was no sense of time, only the sensation of movement, of being cradled by the magic of the realms. And then, as softly as it had begun, the light faded, and they found themselves standing on the shores of Alfheim. Alfheim was a realm of eternal light, where the very air seemed to glow with a golden warmth. The sky above was a canvas of soft blues and pinks, streaked with clouds that drifted lazily, their edges tinged with silver. Before them stretched plains of golden grass, swaying gently in a breeze that carried the scent of honey and wildflowers. In the distance, spires of crystal and stone floated gracefully, defying the pull of the earth, their surfaces catching the light and scattering it in 1,000 shimmering fragments. The land itself felt alive, pulsing with a quiet energy that thrummed beneath their feet. Here and there, streams of pure light flowed like rivers, their surfaces rippling with colors that danced and shifted, casting reflections that painted the ground in hues of amber and rose. The trees of Alfheim were slender and tall, their leaves translucent, glowing faintly as if each one held a tiny sun within. Birds with feathers of iridescent light flitted from branch to branch, their songs a melody that seemed to weave through the very fabric of the realm. Atreus stood in awe, his eyes wide as he took in the beauty of this new world. It's like a dream, he whispered, his voice barely more than a breath. Kratos, too, felt the weight of the realm's serenity, though his gaze remained steady, ever watchful. Yet even he could not deny the peace that settled over him, a rare moment of respite in a life marked by strife. As they ventured deeper into Alfheim, they encountered the elves, beings of light and shadow, their forms ethereal and graceful. The elves moved with a fluidity that seemed to blur the line between the physical and the spiritual, their voices a soft murmur that blended with the wind. They spoke of the light of Alfheim, a force that sustained their realm, and of the balance that must be maintained to keep it pure. Freya's teachings echoed in their minds as they navigated this land of wonder, the runes they had learned now glowing faintly on the stones and trees around them, guiding their path. They came upon a temple, its walls of polished crystal reflecting the light in a dazzling display, and within they found the source of Alfheim's power, a great orb of pure light, pulsing gently like the heart of the realm itself. Here, in this sacred place, Kratos and Atreus stood in silence, the light washing over them, filling them with a warmth that seeped into their very bones. It was a moment of stillness, of connection to something greater than themselves. And as they gazed upon the light, they felt the weight of their journey ease, if only for a time. And so, in the golden embrace of Alfheim, they rested, the echoes of magic surrounding them, a lullaby of light and shadow that cradled them into dreams. Chapter 3. Dwarven Ingenuity. In the heart of the Lake of Nine, where the waters stretched like a vast sapphire mirror beneath the boundless sky, Kratos and Atreus guided their boat towards a small island. Upon its shore stood a ramshackle structure, its wooden beams weathered by time and wind, smoke billowing from a crooked chimney. The rhythmic clang of metal on metal echoed across the water, a steady heartbeat that spoke of tireless labor and ancient skill. This was the workshop of Brock, the dwarven blacksmith, a master of his craft and a gruff companion on their journey. As they drew closer, the air grew thick with the scent of hot iron and charred wood, mingled with the faint tang of something otherworldly, a shimmer of magic that clung to the very stones of the island. The workshop itself was a marvel of organized chaos. Tools of every shape and size hung from the walls, their handles worn smooth by countless hands, while anvils and workbenches stood laden with half-finished projects, scraps of metal, and gleaming ingots. The forge at the center roared with life, its flames licking hungrily at the air, casting a warm golden glow that bathed the space in flickering light. Brock, the blue-skinned dwarf with a beard as wild as the forest itself, stood hunched over his anvil, hammering away at a piece of steel with relentless precision. His hands, calloused and scarred from years of toil, moved with a grace that belied their roughness, each strike of the hammer a testament to his mastery. Nearby, his brother Sindri, ever the fastidious one, polished a delicate piece of armor, his brow furrowed in concentration. The two dwarves were a study in contrasts. Brock, gruff and unrefined, Sindri, meticulous and neurotic, yet together they were unmatched in their craft. "Ah, there you are," Brock grunted without looking up, his voice like gravel underfoot. "Took your sweet time, didn't you?" Sindri glanced up, his eyes brightening at the sight of their visitors. "Oh, Kratos, Atreus, it's good to see you both. I trust the journey here was uneventful." Atreus nodded eagerly, his gaze darting around the workshop with wide-eyed wonder. "It's amazing here. So many tools. And the smell. It's like the air itself is alive." Brock snorted, finally setting down his hammer. "Alive? Ha! It's the smell of hard work, boy. Sweat, steel, and a bit of magic to keep things interesting." He wiped his hands on a rag, leaving streaks of soot behind. "Now what brings you to my humble abode? Need that axe of yours sharpened up?" Kratos stepped forward, his presence as solid and unyielding as the mountains. "The axe has served well, but there is always room for improvement." Sindri's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Ah, yes. I've been working on something special. Runes that can enhance its power, make it sing through the air like a bird on the wing." He gestured to a workbench where a series of intricate symbols were etched into small stones, each one glowing faintly with an inner light. Atreus leaned in, fascinated. "Runes. Like the ones Freya taught us?" "Similar but different," Sindri explained, his voice taking on a scholarly tone. "These are dwarven runes, forged with the strength of the earth itself. They can imbue your weapons with properties beyond mere steel, frost that bites deeper than winter, or flames that burn hotter than the sun." Brock rolled his eyes. "Don't get all poetic on 'em, Sindri. It's just good craftsmanship, nothing more." He turned to Kratos, his expression serious. "But he's right. We can make that axe of yours a true masterpiece. Just need a bit of time and the right materials." Kratos nodded, his gaze steady. "Do what you must." As the dwarves set to work, the workshop came alive with the symphony of their craft. The forge roared brighter, the hammers sang against the steel, and the air hummed with the faint whisper of magic. Atreus watched in awe as Brock and Sindri moved in perfect harmony, their differences forgotten in the pursuit of perfection. The axe, once a simple tool of war, began to transform under their skilled hands, its blade gleaming with a new, otherworldly sheen. While the dwarves worked, Kratos and Atreus took a moment to explore the island. The Lake of Nine stretched out before them, its waters calm and still, reflecting the sky like a sheet of polished glass. In the distance, the silhouettes of ancient structures rose from the water, crumbling bridges, half-submerged statues, and towers that seemed to pierce the heavens. Each one was a testament to the ingenuity of the dwarves, their creations enduring long after their makers had faded into legend. Atreus pointed to a nearby ruin, its stone arches covered in moss and vines. "What do you think that was, Father? A fortress? A temple?" Kratos studied the structure, his eyes tracing the intricate carvings that adorned its surface. Perhaps a forge, or a place of gathering. The dwarves were known for their skill in building as much as in crafting. Atreus nodded, his imagination alight with visions of a bygone era. It must have been incredible to see it in its prime. All the dwarves working together, creating wonders. Kratos grunted in agreement, though his thoughts remained guarded. The past held little comfort for him, but he could not deny the beauty of what lay before them. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, casting a golden glow over the lake, the dwarves called them back to the workshop. The axe was ready, its blade now adorned with runes that shimmered like starlight, its handle wrapped in leather as soft as a whisper. Kratos hefted it in his hand, feeling the perfect balance, the weight that seemed to meld with his own strength. Brock grinned, his teeth flashing white against his soot-streaked face. "Not bad, eh? Bet you've never wielded anything like it." Sindri, ever the perfectionist, adjusted a final rune with a delicate touch. "It's not just a weapon now, it's a piece of art. Treat it well, and it will serve you faithfully." Kratos gave a solemn nod. "Your skill is unmatched. We are in your debt." Brock waved a hand dismissively. Just doing what we do best. Now off with you. There's more to see out there, and I've got work to do." With their farewells exchanged, Kratos and Atreus returned to their boat, the upgraded axe resting securely at Kratos' side. As they pushed off from the shore, the island and its workshop grew smaller in the distance, the clang of hammers fading into the gentle lapping of the waves. They set out across the Lake of Nine, the boat gliding smoothly over the water, leaving a trail of ripples in its wake. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and distant snow. Above, the sky shifted from gold to pink, the first stars beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. As they explored, they came upon a submerged ruin, its stone pillars rising from the depths like the fingers of a drowned giant. Kratos steered the boat closer, and Atreus leaned over the side, peering into the clear water. Below, he could see the remains of a grand hall, its floors covered in a carpet of silt, its walls adorned with faded murals. "Look, Father," Atreus whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's like a whole city down there, lost to time." Kratos gazed into the depths, his expression unreadable. The dwarves built to last, but even their works cannot withstand the ages forever. They lingered there for a while, the boat rocking gently, the only sound the soft splash of water against the hull. The lake seemed to hold its breath, as if honoring the memory of what once was. As night fell, they found a quiet cove to make camp, the shore lined with smooth pebbles and driftwood. Kratos built a small fire, its flames crackling merrily, casting a warm circle of light against the darkness. Atreus sat beside him, his eyes reflecting the fire's glow, his mind still wandering through the day's discoveries. "Do you think we'll ever see anything like that again?" he asked softly. "The workshop, the lake, the ruins." Kratos stared into the fire, his voice low and steady. "The world is vast, boy. There is much yet to see, much yet to learn." Atreus smiled, content with the answer, and leaned back against a log, letting the warmth of the fire seep into his bones. The night was still, the lake a dark mirror beneath the star-strewn sky, and as they sat in companionable silence, the weight of their journey felt lighter, if only for a moment. Here in the embrace of the Lake of Nine, surrounded by the echoes of dwarven ingenuity, they found a rare peace, a moment to rest, to reflect, and to dream of the wonders still to come. Chapter 4. Tales of the Aesir. The path through Midgard had grown narrower, winding like a ribbon of earth between towering cliffs and ancient groves. Kratos and Atreus walked in steady silence, their footsteps muffled by the carpet of fallen leaves that blanketed the forest floor. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and distant snow, while above, the sky stretched wide and clear, a canvas of soft blues and greys. It was a land steeped in myth, where every stone and tree seemed to whisper tales of the gods who had shaped the world. As they journeyed, subtle signs of the Aesir's presence began to appear. Stone effigies, weathered by time, stood sentinel along the path, stern faces carved into the rock, their gazes softened by the passage of centuries. Some bore the likeness of Odin, the All-Father, his single eye gazing out with quiet wisdom. Others depicted Thor, his mighty hammer raised to the heavens. The carvings were adorned with runes, their lines faint but still glowing with a dim inner light, as if the magic of the gods lingered within them. The distant rumble of thunder rolled across the hills, a low murmur that seemed to echo from the very heart of the world. It was a sound that spoke of power, yet here, in this tranquil landscape, it felt more like a lullaby than a warning. Atreus glanced up, his eyes searching the sky for signs of a storm. But the heavens remained calm, the clouds drifting lazily like ships on a serene sea. "Father," Atreus asked softly, "do you think the gods are watching us?" Kratos paused, his gaze sweeping the horizon. "The gods are always watching, boy, but their eyes are not always upon us." Atreus nodded, his curiosity piqued. "I've heard stories of them, Odin, Thor, Baldur, but I don't know much about who they really are." Kratos grunted, his expression unreadable. "They are beings of great power, but their tales are not always ones of glory. They are as flawed as any mortal, perhaps more so." Before Atreus could press further, a figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, a storyteller, cloaked in robes the color of twilight, his face lined with the wisdom of ages. His eyes, bright and knowing, met theirs with a gentle smile, and his voice, when he spoke, was melodic and soothing, like the murmur of a distant brook. "Travelers," he greeted them, "you walk a path steeped in legend. Would you care to hear the tales of the Aesir, the gods who shaped these lands?" Atreus's face lit up with excitement, and even Kratos, ever stoic, gave a slight nod of assent. The storyteller gestured for them to sit upon a moss-covered log, and as they settled, he began to weave his tales, his words painting vivid pictures in the air. First, there is Odin, the All-Father, the storyteller began, his voice a gentle cadence. He is the seeker of knowledge, the one who sacrificed his eye to drink from the well of wisdom. It is said that he wanders the realms in disguise, his ravens, Hugin and Munin, flying ahead to bring him whispers of the world. His hall, Valhalla, stands as a beacon for the brave, where warriors feast and await the final battle. Atreus leaned forward, entranced. Does he ever rest? Or is he always searching? The storyteller chuckled softly. Odin's thirst for knowledge is endless, but even he must pause to reflect. It is in those quiet moments that he truly understands the weight of his wisdom. Next, the storyteller spoke of Thor, the god of thunder. Thor is the protector of Midgard, his strength unmatched, his hammer, Mjolnir, a force that can shatter mountains. Yet for all his might, he is also a guardian, his thunder a shield against the chaos of the giants. The rumble you hear is his chariot rolling across the sky, a reminder that he watches over us. Atreus glanced at Kratos, a spark of awe in his eyes. Have you ever seen Thor, father? Kratos' gaze remained steady. I have seen many things, boy, but Thor's presence is felt more than seen. The storyteller nodded, his expression thoughtful. Indeed, Thor's true power lies not in his appearances, but in the echoes of his deeds. Finally, the storyteller turned to the tale of Baldur, the god of light. Baldur is the fairest of the Aesir, his beauty a reflection of the sun itself. He is blessed with invulnerability, for his mother, Frigg, made all things swear never to harm him. Yet, there is a quiet persistence to him, a longing that drives him to seek something beyond his grasp. Atreus tilted his head, intrigued. What does he seek? The storyteller's voice grew softer, almost a whisper. Some say he seeks the end of his own invulnerability, for even immortality can be a burden. Others believe he searches for a way to protect the realms from a coming darkness. But his path is his own, and his steps leave no mark upon the frost. As the tales unfolded, the world around them seemed to still, the air growing warmer, the light softer. The storyteller's voice wove through the forest like a lullaby, each word a brushstroke on the canvas of their minds. Kratos and Atreus sat in rapt attention, the weight of their journey momentarily forgotten in the embrace of these ancient legends. When the final tale was told, the storyteller rose, his cloak rustling like leaves in the wind. May these stories guide you on your path, he said, his eyes twinkling with a knowing light. For the gods are not just beings of power. They are mirrors of our own hearts, reflecting both our strengths and our flaws. With a graceful bow, he faded back into the shadows of the trees, leaving Kratos and Atreus alone once more. The forest, which had seemed to hold its breath during the tales, now exhaled, the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird filling the silence. Atreus turned to his father, his voice hushed. Do you think we'll ever meet them? The gods, I mean. Kratos stood, his gaze fixed on the path ahead. Perhaps, but for now, we must continue our journey. As they resumed their walk, the tales of the Aesir lingered in their minds like a comforting dream. The landscape around them seemed to take on a new depth, each stone and tree now a part of the stories they had heard. The distant rumble of thunder felt less like a warning and more like a companion, a reminder that they were not alone in this vast world. The day waned, and as twilight draped its veil over the land, they found a sheltered nook beneath the boughs of an ancient oak. Kratos kindled a small fire, its flames crackling softly, casting a warm glow against the gathering dark. Atreus sat close, his eyes reflecting the fire's light, his thoughts still wandering through the legends of the gods. "Do you think the stories are true, Father?" he asked quietly. Kratos stared into the flames, his voice low and steady. "Stories are like the wind. They carry truth, but they also carry dreams. It is up to us to discern one from the other." Atreus nodded, content with the answer, and leaned back against the tree, letting the warmth of the fire seep into his bones. The night was still, the sky above a tapestry of stars, and as they sat in companionable silence, the weight of their journey felt lighter, if only for a moment. Here, in the embrace of the ancient forest, surrounded by the echoes of the Aesir's tales, they found a rare peace, a moment to rest, to reflect, and to dream of the wonders still to come. Chapter 5. The Legacy of the Jotnar. The journey to Jotunheim was unlike any they had undertaken before. With the Bifrost activated, Kratos and Atreus stepped into the shimmering portal, the world around them dissolving into a swirl of color and light. The Bifrost enveloped them in a cocoon of radiance, its hues shifting and blending like the colors of a sunset. Soft pinks, deep purples, and golden ambers that danced around them like living flames. They felt weightless, as if drifting through a sea of stars, the magic of the realms carrying them gently towards their destination. The air was filled with a soft hum, a melody that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of existence, soothing their minds and easing the burdens they carried. Time lost its meaning in that ethereal passage, and for a moment, they were suspended in a dreamlike state, surrounded by the beauty of the Bifrost. The sensation was one of floating on a gentle current, the magic cradling them in its embrace, whispering promises of the wonders that lay ahead. Then, as softly as it had begun, the light began to fade, and they felt solid ground beneath their feet once more. Jotunheim unfolded before them like a tapestry of ancient beauty. The moment they stepped onto its soil, they felt a sense of reverence wash over them, as if the land itself welcomed them with a quiet, knowing grace. Vast valleys stretched out, their floors carpeted with emerald moss and dotted with wildflowers that swayed in the gentle breeze. Blooms of lavender, gold, and white that seemed to glow with an inner light. Towering mountains rose in the distance, their peaks crowned with snow that glittered like diamonds in the soft, golden sunlight. The air was crisp and pure, carrying the faint scent of pine, earth, and something sweeter, like the memory of spring's first bloom. Above, the sky was a masterpiece of nature, a canvas of soft blues and purples streaked with clouds that drifted lazily, their edges tinged with silver and rose. Atreus took a deep breath, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's incredible," he whispered, his voice barely more than a breath, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the serenity of the moment. Kratos nodded, his gaze sweeping the landscape with a rare softness in his eyes. "This is the land of the giants," he said, his tone reverent. "A place of peace and wisdom, untouched by the chaos of the other realms. They began their trek through the valley, following a path that seemed to have been worn by time itself. The ground was soft beneath their feet, cushioned by layers of fallen leaves and moss that muffled their steps. Along the way they passed ancient trees, their trunks thick and gnarled, their branches reaching skyward like the arms of guardians. Each tree bore the marks of age, bark rough and weathered, yet alive with the quiet strength of centuries. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their feathers a flash of color against the green, their songs a melody that wove through the air, blending with the rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of a stream. As they ventured deeper into the realm, the path led them to a serene lake, its surface as still as glass, reflecting the sky and the surrounding mountains with perfect clarity. The water was so clear that they could see the smooth stones at the bottom, each one polished by the gentle caress of the currents. Along the lake's shores, ancient stones stood like silent sentinels, their surfaces etched with intricate runes and murals that told the stories of the giants. Each carving was a masterpiece, depicting scenes of creation, of harmony with nature, and of the giants' boundless wisdom. The lines were delicate yet profound, as if the very soul of the giants had been poured into the stone. Atreus knelt beside one of the murals, his fingers tracing the faded runes with a gentle touch. "Look, Father," he said softly, his voice filled with awe. "This shows the giants tending to the land, nurturing it like a garden. See how they plant the seeds, and how the trees grow tall and strong under their care." Kratos studied the carving, his eyes thoughtful. "They were stewards of the earth," he murmured, "not conquerors. Their strength lay in creation, not destruction." Further along they found the remains of a grand hall, its walls now crumbled but still bearing the marks of exquisite craftsmanship. Vines and moss had claimed much of the structure, weaving through the stones like nature's tapestry. But the beauty of its design was undeniable. The arches, though weathered, still held a grace that spoke of the giants' artistry, and the pillars, though cracked, stood tall, as if refusing to bow to time. Inside, the air was cool and still, and the faint echo of their footsteps seemed to whisper tales of a time long past, when the hall had been filled with the warmth of gatherings and the murmur of voices. Atreus wandered through the ruins, his imagination alight with visions of the giants who had once walked these halls. He could almost see them, tall and majestic, their eyes filled with the light of knowledge, their hands skilled in both craft and care. In the center of the hall they discovered a stone pedestal, upon which rested a weathered tablet. Atreus approached it, his curiosity piqued, and began to read the faded runes aloud. "This tells of the giants' pact with the earth," he said, his voice steady and clear. "How they nurtured the land and protected its balance, ensuring that all living things could thrive in harmony." Kratos nodded, a rare note of respect in his voice. "They were guardians, not warriors. Their legacy is one of peace, not power." As they left the hall and continued their journey, the path began to ascend, leading them towards the towering peak that was their destination. The climb was gentle, the slope gradual, allowing them to take in the breathtaking views as they rose higher. The air grew cooler, and the scent of snow mingled with the earthy aroma of the forest. Below, the valley stretched out like a quilt of green and gold, the lake a shimmering jewel nestled in its heart. The sun, now lower in the sky, cast a warm golden light that bathed the land in a gentle glow, softening the edges of the world and lending it an almost dreamlike quality. At last, they reached the peak, the highest point in all the realms. The view was breathtaking, a panorama of Jotunheim's beauty, with the mountains standing like silent guardians and the valleys unfolding like a sea of green. The sky above was a masterpiece of color, with hues of orange, pink, and violet blending seamlessly into one another as the sun dipped towards the horizon. Kratos held the urn containing Faye's ashes, his expression solemn yet peaceful. Atreus stood beside him, his eyes bright with unshed tears, his heart heavy with the weight of their task. Together they opened the urn and let the ashes scatter on the wind. The ashes caught the light, sparkling like tiny stars before being carried away by the breeze, dancing through the air in a final, graceful farewell. They watched in silence as the ashes drifted over the land, settling gently upon the earth that Faye had loved so deeply. It was a moment of profound stillness, a silent tribute to the woman who had been both wife and mother, whose wisdom had guided them even in her absence. As the last of the ashes disappeared into the wind, Kratos and Atreus sat upon a broad stone, the world around them hushed and still. The weight of their journey seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of fulfillment and peace. They had honored Faye's wish, and in doing so had uncovered a legacy that would guide them forward. The gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird were the only sounds, a lullaby of nature that cradled them in its embrace. For a long while they sat in companionable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Atreus gazed out over the valley, his mind wandering through the stories they had discovered, the murals and runes that spoke of a people who had lived in harmony with the world. Kratos, too, found himself reflecting on the journey, not just the physical path they had walked, but the emotional one as well. He had come to this land as a warrior, but here in Jotunheim, he felt something different, a sense of peace that he had not known in many years. Atreus broke the silence, his voice soft and thoughtful. Do you think Mother knew we would find all of this? The murals, the stories, her people? Kratos turned to his son, his gaze steady. She knew, he said simply. She wanted us to understand her, to see the world as she did. Atreus nodded, a small smile touching his lips. I think I do now. I think I understand why she loved this place so much. Kratos placed a hand on Atreus's shoulder, a rare gesture of affection. She would be proud of you, boy. Of us both. They lingered there as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the land. The air grew cooler, but the warmth of the moment lingered, wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. Eventually, they rose and began their descent, the path now familiar, the land no longer a mystery, but a part of their own story. As they walked, they passed by the lake once more, its surface now reflecting the colors of the twilight sky. The murals on the stones seemed to glow faintly in the dimming light, as if the giants themselves were watching over them, their legacy alive in the hearts of those who had come to honor them. When night fell, they found a sheltered nook beneath the boughs of an ancient tree, its branches spreading wide like a guardian's arms. Kratos kindled a small fire, its flames crackling softly, casting a warm circle of light against the darkness. Atreus sat close, his eyes reflecting the fire's glow, his thoughts still wandering through the day's discoveries. "Do you think we'll ever come back here?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Kratos stared into the flames, his expression unreadable. "Perhaps," he said after a moment. "But for now, we carry this place with us. Its peace, its wisdom. It is a part of us." Atreus smiled, content with the answer, and leaned back against the tree, letting the warmth of the fire seep into his bones. The night was still, the sky above a tapestry of stars, and as they sat in companionable silence, the weight of their journey felt lighter, if only for a moment. Here in the embrace of Jotunheim, surrounded by the legacy of the giants, they found a rare peace, a moment to rest, to reflect, and to dream of the wonders still to come.